For me, being having this Master's of Consciousness studies and being a New Thought minister, to me, it's really like my chance to give back to other people.
You're listening to the Spiritual Shitshow podcast with Suzanne Soul, episode 82. Hello, all you amazing people, and welcome to the Spiritual Shitshow podcast, where we get into the weird and wonderful ride the healing and spiritual awakening journey can be. I'm your host, Suzanne Soul, comedian, lifelong spiritual student, and I'm sharing the helpful hints I've learned along my journey that have helped me and that I hope help you too. Guys, pull up a chair and get in close because I have a very special treat. An amazing 3-part conversation with Rev Aimee Daniels, a beloved spiritual teacher, minister, speaker, and leader in the New Thought movement. Rev Aimee serves as the spiritual director for Cityside Center for Spiritual Living in Chicago, where she creates an environment for spiritual exploration and powerful living through practice and community. Sounds great to me. Where do I sign? She says she believes that we're all connected and that as we deepen into our spiritual nature, our actions become more loving and the world itself begins to change. Isn't that special? I think it is. So there. Rev Aimee received her Master's of Consciousness Studies from the Holmes Institute, became a Centers for Spiritual Living practitioner, and studied extensively at the Chopra Center. Before becoming the spiritual director at Cityside, she served as assistant minister at both Cityside and the Bodhi spiritual centers in Chicago. She also founded a focus ministry through Centers for Spiritual Living called Credo, with the mission of bringing New Thought teachings out into the world in a practical and transformative way. Outside of ministry, Rev Aimee works with CEOs and senior leaders to help them become more effective, conscious, and aligned in both business and life. Delish. Prior to ministry, she spent more than 25 years as a senior executive in the financial services industry. She also holds a Master's of Management from Kellogg, is a trained coach, and is certified in consciousness-based leadership through the Leadership Circle. I mean, this gal is something else. She's amazing. Aimee says she's passionate about helping people discover their own spiritual path and capacity for healing, love, and leadership. In part 1, we talk about how Aimee first began her spiritual journey, what drew her toward ministry and New Thought teachings, and the deeply personal experience that strengthened her belief in a spiritual reality beyond this life and changed her understanding of existence, love, and connection. And this conversation turned into quite the teaching for me. And hopefully it will be for you because she's an incredible teacher. And so I was just soaking in all of her teachings. Why, I was soaking in it. Anyway, so I hope you enjoy this conversation and how illuminating it was. Okay, so I thought it would be soups cool to share a clip from one of Rev Aimee's talks at Cityside Center for Spiritual Living. So let's check it out. Suzanne, roll the clip. Oh, that's me. Roll it.
Ernest Holmes says, love is within us. It cannot be destroyed, and it can only be ignored. So our calling is to stop ignoring it, to live love in presence, respect, and compassion. So Joel Goldsmith teaches us love is the realization of oneness. It's the recognition that we are not separate. When we're not present, it can feel, or when we're not feeling the presence, it can feel like love is absent. And I think we've all had this experience, right, of feeling separate. But love is actually a verb. Stephen Covey taught that. And I used to not get that, right? I used to think no, love is an emotion. But we use the word love to talk about so many things, don't we? Romantic love. I love this, right? And love is also like how we show up over time with people. So love's a verb. And when we choose to act from this place of love, we're allowing the love, which spiritually we would say, the love is the nature of spirit, divine, whatever your word is. We're allowing that love to work through us. And when you think about the things that cause us personally to suffer in our lives, feeling separate is at the top of our list, isn't it? And what is it that makes us feel separate? What is it? It might be our thoughts, it might be our feelings, it might be our idea of how things should be, or some story we am playing in our head, or it could be people who don't accept us, quite frankly, because we've all had that happen too, haven't we? And what we want to remember, I love this, Roger Teal says this, that life is a relationship course. I mean, literally, without the mirror of other people, we wouldn't be having this human experience. And that's also true about, we're all having this experience together. We're all part of this oneness. And so the gift of relationship is that it teaches you about yourself. Sometimes it teaches us what we haven't healed in ourselves yet. I know it does for me, but it helps you to know yourself more completely. Our most important relationship actually is our relationship with oneness, which is the deeper spiritual reality. And sometimes it's hard to get present to that in life, right? And this human experience we're having, sometimes it's pretty hard to experience oneness. But that's the truth. We're all different expressions of it, but we're all part of this universal life that's expressing and living and breathing our bodies, living and breathing, animals, plants, all of it. It's all the same life energy. And so we're one, but we each have a unique expression of this oneness. So I'm not the same as each of you, right? Like we each bring in this oneness and we have our unique expression of it.
Groovy, huh? Okay, now here's my conversation with the amazing Rev Aimee Daniels. All right, Aimee Jackson Daniels, welcome to the Spiritual Shit Show interview shit show.
Well, thank you, Suzanne. I'm honored to be your guest here today.
I'm so honored because you're such an incredible person. You're such a leader, and as a woman, you're just doing such wonderful things. And so I'm just so excited to talk with you and share your story and share your wisdom with everyone.
Well, thank you, Suzanne.
Yes. So you are a New Thought minister.
Yes.
And you studied at the Holmes Institute.
Yes, I did.
Can you tell us a little bit about that and a little about the Holmes teachings?
Sure. So Ernest Holmes was a guy who lived till about 1960, and he was one of the kind of, I don't know, early to middle New Thought teachers. There were a lot of them that came out, starting probably around 1880, and Ernest started writing in the 1920s. And he's famous for a book called Science of Mind. So the school that I studied in, the Holmes Institute, obviously is named after him.
Yeah.
He's the founder of Centers for Spiritual Living, which, by the way, he never wanted to have a spiritual community. He simply wanted to be a writer and speak. So
Is that interesting?
kind of an interesting thing. And
Yeah.
so the Holmes Institute is part of Centers for Spiritual Living, and it's a program, it's changed a little bit over time, but it's a program that's really kind of a combination of studying philosophy, a lot of world religions, studying various New Thought teachers, and then really studying about like what's involved with being a minister.
So that sounds a lot like an interfaith kind of education almost.
It's a lot like an interfaith education. The program I went through, they have more than one program, but the program I went through was a master's program. So I have a master's of consciousness study, which is always a good conversation starter because people are like, what?
What?
That?
Yes. So like what does that mean to you to have a master's of consciousness study?
Well, it's funny, like I remember when I started taking classes years ago at Chicago Center for Spiritual Living before it was Bodhi. I was taking my first class. Everyone takes this foundations class that helps you understand New Thought and affirmative prayer and all these things we do. And in the middle of the first class, I'm like, I'm going to be a minister. Now, I just want to tell you right now, I had no idea what I was talking about.
Oh my
Okay.
gosh.
Because, um, but, for me, being, having this Master's of Consciousness studies and being a New Thought minister, to me, it's really like my chance to give back to other people because I came into this teaching probably 25 or 26 years ago. I had gotten divorced and I was trying to figure out like how the heck did, a nice girl like me from Bensonville get myself, and if that doesn't mean anything to you, but it's like a Western suburb that
I know Bensonville. I grew up in
know,
Addison.
like Victory Auto Wreckers and like
Yeah.
the hockey rink and
Yep.
the Dome golf thing. That's all people know it for.
Bensonville, Illinois.
Bensonville, Illinois, exactly. And but I was really trying to figure out my own life,
Mm.
right? Like trying to figure out like, okay, on the outside everything looks good, but like I went through this experience that was less than optimal, to be generous.
Mhm.
And I was just kind of trying to figure out life. And I had been raised Methodist and I ended up, getting into New Thought because someone told me they thought I should go to the Unity Church, which led me to Centers for Spiritual Living. We're kind of cousins, spirit.
Yes, yes.
But like getting in this teaching really helped me bring my self-esteem to the inside. I think my self-esteem was like everywhere but the inside.
Mm.
Right. And so I
What a
was
beautiful
very
thought.
very movable, right?
Mhm.
Like, and we all have our little baggage, but I think mine was always trying to please someone else and be who someone else thought I should be. And like through this teaching, I feel like my life changed a lot. And I think that's really was the inspiration to go into ministry is like, I'd love to help someone else have that
Mm.
same experience.
It's so beautiful, and I love how you kind of spoke to that, that your self-esteem, like you learned to go in for
Mm-hmm.
your self-esteem, and I experienced that same thing when I was on starting on my spiritual path. It was like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, I have
Right.
to look inward.
Imagine that.
I have to look
I was
inward.
sitting there. How come no one told me?
Now, I did just listen to your last talk on,
Oh,
and you were talking about radical forgiveness,
yes.
and you were telling the story
I
of
was, yes.
the do you mind sharing any of that of the divorce and everything?
No, I really don't because I
Okay.
think I don't mind
Oh, you
sharing.
don't mind? Okay.
I don't mind sharing it. I
Okay.
mean, so there. I think you get older and you get a little bit wiser. And I think if you're on the spiritual path, you realize like, the teaching of Colin Tipping, which is what we're working with, is like every relationship in our life is there to kind of wake us up. All the
Mm,
experiences of our life, just in general. So,
mm,
like, just getting a level of curiosity to say, like, huh, I'm having this experience. I wonder what's going on inside of me, not to
mm.
blame ourselves, right?
Yeah.
That's not helpful to any of us to like be
Right.
like, you dummy,
Yeah.
right? It's just not
Yeah.
helpful. But I think what I realized is that I just kept attracting, and that not just in my marriage, but I just kept attracting like someone, and even things in my work life too, where like I was trying to matter to the person. And like it was
Mm,
almost like then I'd have these experiences where I felt like I didn't matter. Right.
right.
And so I had to, shift my own inner dialogue on it. It's funny, it's been 25 or 6 years since I got separated and divorced. And it's like, I look at it now, and I think you heard this in my talk. And I look back now and I think, gosh, I could have had more compassion for him.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
And so, and for
100%.
myself,
Yeah.
right? Like, I had this crazy experience not that long after it happened where I was very sick
Mm.
and I had E. coli in my
Mm.
kidney, and I
Oh my
get
gosh.
misdiagnosed at the emergency room. And like one night, they finally got me on the right medicine, and like I couldn't sleep. And I was like, my boyfriend at the time, he had two cats, and they're like laying on me, and they're like vibrating, they're like meowing on
Yeah.
and, but they were jumpy because, like, when you live in the city in Chicago, there's
Yeah.
always noise,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so, I don't know, I just had the realization in the middle of that night years ago, like, we were just two people who were not, we hadn't, because of our childhoods, we hadn't learned, what we really needed, we weren't coming into it healthy, I guess is
Right.
how I would say it. Like we hadn't
Yeah.
learned how to be in a good relationship. And
Yeah. Yeah. It's so typical. Like, I can so relate to that in my early relationships. You're going in with so many unhealed wounds
right,
and unmet needs. And then the other person has that too.
right.
And then you're trying to go to each other. It's like, I don't have what they say, going to the hardware store for milk.
Right, exactly. But the other thing too is think about all the, I love rom-coms. How about you?
Yeah. Oh my God.
I love
Love.
rom-coms, but like
Love.
rom-coms are not helpful
Not
to
helpful.
happy relationships because that is just
No.
not the way it works. Like,
Yeah.
right? You know?
Yeah. Yeah. So I remember in the story you were saying that you were having like you're saying, like you didn't feel seen, you didn't feel
Right.
cared for, and then he made a move without you weren't on board with it.
Right. Yeah, I kind of got an ultimatum about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's ironic because like, if you look at everything we teach, everything in our life is for us, right?
Mhm.
And so like my marriage didn't work out and years later he did come back and apologize
Oh
and I said,
wow.
"Well, it's okay, everything worked out,
Yeah,
right?"
yeah.
And he goes, "But we're not married."
Oh,
No,
you're
but
like, no, it still worked out.
well, I mean, it actually helped me advance in my career and build my
Yes.
confidence professionally, and
Yes.
get to live near all these people who lived their life completely differently than
Yeah.
people in Chicago and had like lived my life with my friends in a way I hadn't in Chicago. So
Mm.
I feel like even though I wouldn't have wished to not have gone through that, that
Yeah.
there were a lot of, and it put me on the path. I wouldn't be
Yeah.
a minister if that hadn't happened.
Yeah. Because
I would still be in my old spiritual path. I wouldn't have
right.
read every book I could get my hands on at Barnes
Yes.
and Noble after getting divorced about any
Yes.
spiritual path I could find that
Yeah,
might
because
have an answer for
the
me.
move was to Des Moines, right?
Right.
And how
Right.
long were you there?
3 years.
Okay, that's pretty a decent amount.
Yeah, it is. And I think it was in the last year was when we split up. And
Mm,
I still stayed for a while, but it became clear to me that like I just wasn't going to have any kind of personal life because everyone was married. Like I
mhm.
don't think I told this the story, but one of my friends, I got invited to an event at someone's home and I was supposed to bring a date and I told my best friend there the day before. She goes, "Well, here's the only people I can think of." I'm like, "I guess I'm going by myself." Everybody was married.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I get that. I'm single and I experience that, but I don't know, you get used to it. But
Well, and people are gracious,
yeah,
it's like
yeah, for
all
sure,
of
for
us, we
sure.
gotta I was single for a long time. I was dating and probably making some of the same mistakes, but like
Yeah,
lesser, they got less, right? Like,
yeah,
"Ooh, I figured out they're unavailable. Okay, and perhaps I shouldn't stick with this," right?
yeah. And it
But
just feels like a part, like there's like obviously there was already a spark deep in you that because some people are do that for the long haul. They stay in that relationship where
yeah.
they're not seen and that's it. But
Yeah.
obviously there was a spark in you
Well,
that was
I
like,
think
there's more.
I didn't feel at peace, and, you think about
Mhm.
your friends in your life, like, we had gone to counseling, and he didn't think that was for him, he walked out, and I kept
Ooh.
going, and, like, a couple of my friends said, like, "You're not yourself when he's around,"
Mm,
and that takes a really good friend to
yeah.
say that to you.
Yeah.
And so it took me a long time. And then, I was like, okay, I'm going to be brave and I'm going to speak my truth. And obviously it didn't go very well
Yeah,
because
yeah,
it
yeah.
didn't work
Right.
out. But like,
Yeah.
I think about that now and I think, gosh, I just didn't really have any skills to like, I'm a pleaser. I'm an avoider.
Yeah.
That was sort of wired in me. I'm better than I was. But like, I think the spiritual path has really helped me to say, you know what, I can, I'm going to go pray about this to get the
Yeah.
courage to talk about something. And I think
Yeah.
the other thing it's really done for me is some of the friendships that I've had. I remember, going through before you become a minister in Centers
Mm,
for Spiritual Living, you're a
yeah.
practitioner, which I know you know that, which is
Yeah.
like a lay minister, is what I would.
Yes.
It's kind of like a lay minister.
It's like, yeah.
And I was in training and I had been dating this guy for on and off for 4.5 years. Note to self, break up, get back together 7 jillion times. Perhaps not the right person.
Exactly.
I'm gonna just
We've all done it.
But I remember the night before my second year of prac training, he broke up with me because he said, you're not a Christian anymore.
Bye.
I'm like, I'm in everything now, but
Yes.
I went to my prac training the next day and I thought, well, God answered my prayer, right?
Yeah.
Because I got a clear message that I was
Yes.
to continue, which I had been praying about.
Mm.
And I sat and cried for 3 hours. And it
Yeah.
was the only time in my life where I had the experience that I could sit and cry and no one was judging me
That's right.
and no one was trying to fix me.
Yeah.
And they were just kind of holding the space for me. And,
Mhm.
it passed, right?
Yes. Of
But,
course.
I felt like I just kept getting the affirmation that I was to continue in the study. And it's funny, like I think back, how you think back, like where did even that spiritual seed get planted in me?
Yes.
And, I really think, I mean, my mother was a big United Methodist and we went
Mhm.
to church every Sunday. I used to be able to recite all the books of the Bible in order, but I'd probably flunk right now because
It's been a minute.
although I like to quote the Bible sometimes, you know, but in high school, I just, maybe it's like this existential fear that you get about, well, what would happen if I died?
Yeah.
Right? That I just started to like, I'd go to church with my friends. Some of them, Methodists are pretty, the part of the Methodist church that my family was part of, pretty progressive, pretty socially
Yeah,
active,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
not a lot of rules.
Right.
I found out later we weren't supposed to gamble. I never knew that even though
I'm
until my
not?
brother my brother bought a lotto ticket in college. My mom lost it. I'm like, where did I miss that Sunday?
Exactly. I never read that.
I didn't read that, but I started going to church with some of my friends, and some of them were much more fundamentalist Christians than I
Mhm.
was. But I was just on a mission to figure it out. Like
Yeah.
I just wanted to understand how it worked. And
Yeah. I
I
think
think,
that happens. I think that happens. And I think that like that spark is in those of us who have been felt urged on and
right,
spurred on by that spark within us that was just like planted there. It's just there.
it's
And
there.
to me, it's why you couldn't just continue on with your husband in the way that you were, because there was a part of you that needed to move forward and you couldn't do it there. And I also want to share something from what I was hearing you say around like when you voiced your opinion and or when you used your voice and it didn't go well with your
Yeah,
husband, but it was like that was the catalyst for
right.
you to start your journey, just using your voice in the messy experience that it was. It
Right.
was like your launching pad to me.
Yeah, it really was. And
Yeah.
it's funny sitting talking to you, I realized one of the things that pushed me over the edge in that relationship was he actually went, we sort of were separated, but he came back for a week and then he went to church with me. And he's like, I know you believe this stuff, but I just don't believe it. And even then, I wasn't into New Thought yet. But I
Mm.
was kind of like, wow, we just like see the world really
Yeah.
differently. And um and it's funny because now I'm at a place like you don't have to believe what I believe, but
Right.
you need to let me believe what I believe.
Right. Right.
You know, I
Exactly.
I struggle a little bit when people are disrespectful of people who are
Mhm.
spiritual because it's like, and I also just say, I really hope you have an experience that like blows your hair back that you can't explain because I think
Yeah.
that some of that happens for us on the spiritual path. Like I think about the day my mom died. I'm like,
Mhm.
that day confirmed to me that we go on.
Mm.
Can I tell the
Yes,
story?
please.
Okay.
Please.
So, my mom was 88 years old then.
Mhm.
And, she had been in a nursing home for like 4 years. She took sort of the long road out, but it was pretty clear she was getting close to the end. And I had moved back to Chicago because I'm like, I don't want to miss that.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be here. I want to be here.
Yeah.
And so the night before we had gotten a call, we were actually ironically, I was out to dinner with my brother and um the nursing home called and said, she's getting close, because nurses are the most amazing people in the world.
Yes.
They know these things.
100%.
And so my niece and I like get in the car as we go over there. We stay there till like midnight. And then we're like, well, apparently it's not that imminent, so we're going to go home and sleep. So I come back in the morning, and when someone's getting close to their passing, a lot of times they sleep a great deal, right? It's a pretty common thing that you hear people describe. But she wakes up in the middle of the morning. I'm sitting there, and she goes, "I love you, and I'm going to miss you."
Oh my gosh.
And I'm like, how does she know she's leaving today? Like, this just
Wow.
blew me away, right? So I'm
Yes.
there all day. My brothers come and go,
Gosh.
and then my sister comes right after she gets off of work, because she couldn't get off of work. And my mom was really like agitated. And my sister's like, well, I'm going to go see if they'll give her something. And I'm sitting there thinking, she's leaving today. You want me to
She
get
told me goodbye already. Oh my gosh.
leaving, right? But I'm a little,
Incredible.
I'm probably a little woo-woo for my family, okay?
Yeah.
So then my sister leaves the room, and my mother looks so anxious, like, and I just look at her. I go, Mom, you have nothing to worry about.
Oh.
And she goes, I love you. And she says, bye 3 times. And then she starts calling for her mom like a little kid.
Oh my goodness.
And then she gets peaceful. And then my sister comes back, and she's missed the whole thing. And like, I don't want to be like, well, I got 4 I loves you from her today.
Right.
And you didn't.
She knows now. She listens to this.
And so anyway, and then she just passed peacefully, but like
Oh.
just being a witness to that, I'm like, there was some deeper
Wow.
spiritual intelligence that was happening there,
Yeah.
and I was just kind of like, it just proved to me that like everything I believe is true. Like we go on, maybe not to like the condition, the heaven that we grew up believing in, but
Right.
like the energy changes form, and the spirit somehow continues. And like 1 minute she's breathing, which if you really think about it, it's pretty amazing that people are breathing. Like what's breathing them?
Right. Right.
It's amazing. So anyway, I feel like when we're on the path and we're open, we have these experiences that kind of say, or things that confirm to us like, hey, you're moving in the right direction. Look here.
All righty then. That was part 1 of my convo with Rev Aimee Daniels. Join me for part 2 as we talk about noticing thoughts, prayer, grief, and how spirituality can become something practical and grounding instead of just some inspirational words on a coffee mug. Anyways, as always, this has been the Spiritual Shitshow podcast. My name is Suzanne Soul. Thank you so dang much for listening, and I will see you on the next one. Roll it, you splendiferous wonder, you.